Do-hyuk woke up. He was being carried. His mind was foggy, and he struggled to remember what had happened. His body ached, and everything felt strange. Every muscle screamed in protest with each movement. He opened his eyes slowly, blinking against the dim light. He saw a familiar face. It was a face he had hoped to see, a face that brought a small measure of comfort.
You're awake.
She whispered, relief in her voice. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. Do-hyuk tried to speak, but his throat was dry. The words caught in his throat, and he could only manage a hoarse whisper. He could only nod. They were moving, and he could feel the gentle sway of their steps. He could feel the uneven ground beneath them, each step jarring his already aching body. As his vision cleared, he saw they were in a long tunnel. The walls seemed to close in around them. It was dark, lit only by flickering torches on the walls. Shadows danced eerily in the dim light. The air was heavy with the smell of damp earth and something else, something metallic. It was a scent that hinted at blood. He realized they were not alone. The tunnel was filled with others, all moving in the same direction. Others followed behind them, some injured, some carrying the dead. The weight of their loss was palpable. It was a somber procession, the silence broken only by the shuffling of feet and muffled sobs. The air was thick with grief and despair. They emerged from the tunnel near a shattered landmark. Do-hyuk recognized it, Gangnam Station. The once bustling transportation hub was now a desolate ruin. Twisted metal and broken concrete stretched towards the sky. The city beyond the station was a wasteland. Buildings were crumbling, streets were cracked, and it was a ghost of its former self, haunted by the remnants of a disaster he could barely remember. As they walked, Hae-yun explained.
We are headed for the city gates. The gates are the only way in or out. They are guarded and there are rules.
Do-hyuk listened, his mind struggling to grasp the reality unfolding before him. The world he knew was gone. A new, harsher reality had taken its place. The gates loomed before them, massive structures of steel and stone, casting long shadows over the ground. Armed guards stood watch, their faces grim and unforgiving. Hae-yun explained the rules in a hushed tone, emphasizing the importance of compliance.
Each person has to pay a price to enter, a toll that ensures their passage into the city. The price is a coin, a crystal containing the life force of a monster, a rare and valuable commodity in this harsh world. Without a coin, there is another option, though it is not for the faint of heart. Serve the city's god, Aruga, as a soldier, pledging your life to the city's defense.
The thought sent a chill down Do-hyuk's spine, the weight of the decision pressing heavily on him. He learned there were other cities, each ruled by a different god, each with its own set of rules and demands. These gods, Hae-yun explained, were beings of immense power, remnants of the calamity that had reshaped the world, leaving it in ruins. They were not benevolent deities, but rather, they were entities of fear and control. They were harsh rulers, demanding tribute and obedience from their subjects, leaving no room for dissent. Survival in this new world meant navigating their whims and surviving their trials, a constant struggle against the odds.
As they drew closer to the gate, I noticed something lying by the roadside. Bodies. They were sprawled on the ground, their faces frozen in expressions of terror and despair. I recognized them. They were from my neighborhood. Friends, acquaintances, people I had grown up with, people I knew, people I had seen just days ago, now reduced to lifeless forms. Now, they were just lifeless corpses, another grim reminder of the world's fragility. The air was thick with the scent of decay.
A wave of nausea washed over Do-hyuk. The sight was too much to bear. He fought back the urge to vomit, his stomach churning violently. The stench of death was overpowering, a sickening reminder of their grim reality. Hae-yun squeezed his hand, her face etched with sorrow and fear. They had seen their share of death in the past weeks, but it never got easier. The gatekeeper, a hulking figure clad in black armor, barked at them to keep moving. His voice was cold, devoid of any empathy, a stark contrast to the suffering around him. The sight of the bodies and the gatekeeper's callous indifference hammered home the brutality of their new reality. It was a world where life had lost its value.
Keep moving.
The line inched forward. Tension crackled in the air as they neared the gatekeeper. He stopped before each person, demanding their tribute. Coins changed hands, shimmering crystals that seemed to pulse with a strange energy. Do-hyuk felt a knot of anxiety tighten in his stomach. They didn't have any coins.
We have nothing. We've been trapped and we have nothing.
The gatekeeper sneered.
Aruga's Legion, your only option.
Do-hyuk's heart sank. The prospect of serving a god, especially one spoken of with such fear, filled him with dread. He looked at Hee-yoon, her face pale but resolute and determined. A hushed argument broke out among their group. Some argued for joining Aruga's Legion, seeing it as their only chance of survival. Others, like Hee-yoon, were vehemently against it.
We don't know what fate awaits us there. We've heard the rumors. They say Aruga is cruel, that his soldiers are nothing more than slaves.
Do-hyuk listened, his mind racing. He didn't want to be a soldier. He didn't want to serve a god he didn't believe in. But what choice did they have? Time seemed to stretch, every second heavy with the weight of their decision. They were caught between a rock and a hard place, forced to choose between two unpalatable options. Finally, a decision was made. They would join Aruga's Legion. It was a decision born out of desperation, a gamble made with their lives. As they were herded towards the side entrance, a new wave of fear washed over Do-hyuk. He thought of Namgun. His friend was strong, a capable fighter. But would that be enough to survive in Aruga's Legion? What trials awaited them beyond the gate? Uncertainty gnawed at him. He had survived the initial catastrophe. He had escaped the clutches of the awakened. But the journey was far from over. The fight for survival had just begun.